We're going to cover everything about grading, or at least most of it, and why you should get stuff graded, the cost, which is a big question. How much does it cost to get my coin or banknote graded? And I'll touch on other collectibles too, like PSA and trading cards and stuff, just a little bit, but mainly currency. So let's get to everything grading. So first and foremost, grading in general, what is it? Basically, there's companies out there that are certified grading companies, kind of authorities on condition of coins and banknotes, and you can send them to those companies that can give you a grade on the coin or banknote, any piece of currency. And then they're similar to many other companies out there that do grading for different collectibles, like comic books, vinyls, toys, etc. So these companies, which the most popular ones are NGC, PCGS, or Annex, those are all really good companies that have been around a long time, and they can do attribution and grading for coins to determine multiple things. Of course, the condition of the coin, and then also just determine that it's not a counterfeit, and also kind of put a market value to your coin. So those are kind of, in short, reasons to get it graded. I think the biggest reasons to get a coin or banknote graded are pretty obvious to most people, but one, it just solidifies the condition of the coin. The coin or the banknote will be sent back encapsulated by these grading companies, and that'll just keep the condition the way it is currently. It'll also put an actual grade to that piece of currency. So then you can determine quite a few things, which brings us to other questions I get a lot, which is how much is my coin or my banknote worth? Which is a great question, of course. How much is it worth? If we don't collect stuff, do not at least know a little bit. Even us collectors that do it for just the love, so we say, still want to know the value of our collectibles. And this is going to put, getting it graded is going to put a market value on it. You now can compare it to sales of that graded coin and know kind of where you stand on a value. And that's a huge factor in just collecting in general, even if you're not in it for the money, pun intended. So now that we've kind of touched on, well, what is grading and why would I even want to get it graded and what's the benefit, let's talk about the things that go into grading when you send it to one of these companies. After that, we'll talk about, of course, the cost of when you send it to any of these companies, which do vary a little bit, but we'll get to that in a moment. So first, let's talk about what goes into the grading of a coin. This will be the point where you'll want to get a little popcorn or a snack, because it's a little bit more than what you'd think than just sending a coin or banknote in and a couple people look at it and then just shoot it right back to you. It's a very intricate process where they have to be correct on the condition, because again, it's mainly going to put a market value to that piece of currency, but it's also going to be an authority in saying, this is real, it's not a counterfeit, and this is what its condition is. Now, I'll have another video that covers banknote grading, but in this one, we're going to talk specifically about coin grading as far as the grades are concerned. So keep an eye out for that other video if you're a banknote collector. I'll also make a couple videos, and have already, way back many moons ago, that cover your comic book and trading card and other collectibles you can send in to places like PSA or CGC or the like. So you can check those videos out if you want to. Just hit up my channel here on YouTube and search for them in the search bar. But back to coins. Coin grading is all on the same scale when it comes to sending them off to these companies. When they get graded, it's going to be done on the Sheldon Grading Scale. This is a scale that was put into place many years ago, and in short, has various grades and levels amongst it, that various factors are going to be used to determine where your coin falls on the scale. Now, the scale does have a number system that is 1 to 70, 1 being the lowest, and 70 being the highest or closest to mint state, or the state in which it was when it came out of the mint. Now, funny enough, all those numbers from 1 to 70 are not used, so let's cover what is used. Now, I too like to use notes and like to use infographics, so make sure to check out my website, varietyerrors.com, where I have all that good stuff that you can use as well, but I have a handy dandy printout that I'll read off of, so that way you get the actual description, not from Kyle here, but from the folks that use the Sheldon scale. I compiled these off of PCGS and NGC's site. The grading scale first starts with P1, or poor. This is barely identifiable, with heavy wear and a significant damage shown on the coin. FR2 is fair, which is very worn, but the date and some design details are still visible, so you can at least identify the coin. About good, or AG3, is where it starts. And this is extremely worn, with only the major design elements visible on the coin. So you still can identify what it is. Good, which is G4 to G6. This is going to be heavy wear on your specimen, but the coin's design and date are still really, really clear. You can make them out without much difficulty. The next level is VG8 to VG10, or very good, which is moderate wear, but all major details are very visible on the coin. F12 to F15, or fine condition, has moderate to heavy wear, but all details and design elements are really visible on the coin. You have VF20 to VF35, or very fine, and those are light to moderate wear coins. Some finer details are still visible though, even though there is wear on the coin. You then get to extremely fine. Now, in some cases, we'll talk about this and you'll see in the photos on this video that some of these, when you look at the grade labels on these coins back from NGC or PCGS, they might use different terminology. For example, one of them might use ultra cameo, whereas the other one uses deep cameo. Or in this case, instead of EF being used for extremely fine, they might use XF for extremely fine. But either way, these terms are used, or labels are used, interchangeably. EF40 to EF45 is extremely fine, but slight wear on the highest points of the coin. AU50 to AU58 is about uncirculated. So it's still a circulated coin, but it's close to looking in those mint state grades, like it's never been used in circulation. There's almost no wear, and only minor signs of handling on the coin. The last level is MS60 to MS70. That's going to be mint state. You hear about this in a lot of videos on YouTube. Everybody's like, hey, this MS70 whatever sold for a cajillion babillion dollars. That's awesome. They're, of course, the top echelon of grade, and that's going to be known as mint state, where there's no wear at all. MS70 is a perfect, flawless coin. So MS70s are the top tier coins. Now, we get into different versions of grading we'll talk about in a minute, as well as designations, whether you're talking about proofs or red, brown, and all these different things. So we'll get to those as well, but that's the basics of the actual levels of the Sheldon grading system. So now that you kind of have the idea of just the levels, if you're not bored already, we'll talk about, of course, what goes in to getting one of those levels. So of course, just overall condition, as we discussed in the descriptions of each one of those levels, is obviously one of the biggest factors. But what goes into conditioning the coin? Now, even when you're looking at your own coin that's not graded, of course you want to look at just the overall condition. What's the wear and tear on the coin on a general level when you're now aware of what they're kind of looking at on the Sheldon scale as far as the amounts of wear that are allowed on the coin before it goes from one level or another up or down. Primarily when you send it into grade, they're going to be looking at overall wear and tear, the luster of the coin, the color or toning of the coin, and the strike quality. These are all going to be the major factors when it comes to conditioning your coin. So you'll want to keep those in mind too. When you're just looking through your change and you found that next awesome collectible, you'll want to start taking care of it in a way that you can retain whatever condition it is, whether it started out poor or close to mint state. Now, before we get a little bit further into all these different types of things to talk about proofs, cameos, colors, and designations, really good resources if you want to hop out of the video at this point and kind of go on your own. I'll link in the description box below, but of course, PCGS and NGC's websites are really good. There's also Konica and many other sites, Wexler's Die Varieties, copper coins, a whole bunch of different websites as far as resources. Now, as far as grading, Gainesville Coins and Littleton has pretty good articles on this stuff, as well as many other YouTubers out there are probably more versed than me in some ways, or many ways, and have better videos that you might get a little more benefit from or be able to understand more. So make sure you support all those creators as well. All right, so that brings us to the next thing, and then I know we're getting there towards what does it cost. But let's talk about the different designations that your coin might get when it goes to grading. These are going to include things like brown, red designations, antiqued, proof, deep cameo, and many others. So we'll kind of quickly touch on each one, and similar to reading you the Sheldon Grading Scale, I want you to get the information directly from the folks that put it together and use it to grade your coins. So these are not my descriptions, they're directly from NGC or PCGS. We'll start with color designations. The first one being red or RD. You'll see this on the label for any coins that are copper coins with at least 85% of their original red color. These are typically well preserved and are going to be almost, if not uncirculated coins. The next one is red-brown designation. These are coins that have between 15% and 85% of their original red color. You will notice areas that are turning brown on these coins. The last one is a brown designation, or BN. This is a copper coin that has less than 15% of its original red color, having completely oxidized into brown tones. So now you'll know what that means when you see it on a label and when they do some sort of color designation for your Lincoln cents and copper coins. This will bring us to the next thing, which can be applied to a lot of different coins, and that's surface designations, or things that are designated to the finishes of the coins or the actual design elements of the coins. We'll start off with the first one, which is going to be antiqued. A coin that's artificially aged or oxidized so it looks antiqued is going to be labeled as such, antiqued. The next one is a proof, which is either PF or PR is the abbreviation. And these are specially struck coins that are going to have a mirror-like finish. Many of you are well aware of what a proof coin is. They're specifically made for us collectors, and you'll see that designated on their label if you ever send them in for grading. Even if the thing is beat up and has a lower grade as a proof coin, it will still be designated as a proof coin. Cameos, which can either be regular cameo, sometimes shortened to CAM or CAM, or a deep cameo, which generally is shortened to DCAM. A cameo coin is a proof coin where the design has a frosted finish, contrasting with a mirror-like background. Deep cameos is an extreme version of a cameo, where the frosting is even more pronounced on the coin, and so it gets a deep cameo designation, and are usually sought after by people that really like proof coins, or a lot of collectors in general, and can command really, really good values to them. The next designation is a matte proof. This is a finish that has a matte finish comparatively to your frosted finishes on other cameo proofs. This is more satiny in its look, and I actually know many people that really, really like this toning on coins and actually prefer it. This brings us to another designation, which is brilliant uncirculated. You can probably tell that that designation is stating that the coin is uncirculated and it retains its original luster straight from the mint. The last designation is going to be a satin finish designation, which is when it has a finish that's a matte-like satiny finish that is done on many commemorative sets and specialty sets that give the coin a really soft, matte-like tone. Now that we got through a lot of the boring stuff, or maybe interesting to some of you guys, we can jump to a really important part of the grading process, which is what does it cost? I think that's one of the biggest questions is how much does it cost? So then you can weigh it against the value of the coin, which I talk about here in just a little bit. So when we come to the costs of grading your coin, it's going to vary a little bit between kind of the major companies. So I'll kind of just touch on the major three. Since there is a bunch of companies out there, there are smaller ones, there's other ones. And then of course outside the US, there's a couple other options that are available. But the major three are NGC, PCGS, or Annex. So all of them are kind of similar pricing, and they have different tiers of service. A lot of it is just dependent on how quick you want the service done. So they have a standard, or also known as economy service, which for NGC and PCGS is around 20 bucks. Annex's service is a little more standardized, but their service starts out at around $30. I believe they do have another economy level if you're a member in a couple different levels. That's around $15 or $20 per coin, and this would be their economy level. Now, for all three of them, they do have another tier that goes up, and this is going to be the express level for it. And if you can probably guess, this is just an express format for the service where they go through the process a little quicker as far as kind of getting the coin graded, encapsulated, and returned to you, the collector. Now, these can range in value, but usually are around $100 with any of these three graders. The last one is their walkthrough service. The walkthrough service, and it's called a couple different things at different grading services, but the walkthrough service is kind of their hands-on walkthrough. We really give it our all on this specific coin, but it's their premier service. This premier service is going to be much faster. It's going to incorporate a couple different levels and be above and beyond the normal grading process, but does cost a lot more money. At all three of these, this is around the $200 mark. I think NGC is the most expensive. Theirs is around $250 for their walkthrough service, but it is the top tier grading service that any of these three offer. So these kind of prices are variable, of course. So before you jump down my throat in the comments, I know I could be a little off. I'm giving you general pricing, but you can send in group submissions to these places just like you can CGC or PSA or any of them, Beckett. And if you have like a ton of stuff you're sending in, then they'll give you a discount for like a group submission. There's also other instances with discount codes and special offers, events. You can get stuff graded in person at some conventions. And of course, those prices wax and wane depending on what the service is, the location, and event that's hosting the service. So there is other variables involved that can make these prices kind of off. But in general, you're looking about $20, $30 plus a couple other shipping costs for the economy fee, around $100 for the express fee, and then around between like $150, $175, and $250 for a walkthrough service of getting your coin graded. So that'll bring us to kind of the end of this video. Why would I get a coin graded if it's like whatever quarter and it's only worth $6 in a close to mint state grade? You know, you see these videos, even my own, where somebody's like, yeah, these are the top 10 most valuable quarters, and you watch it and you're like, okay, well, you just told me that number 8 on the list was such and such quarter that's worth $12 in MS60, you know, and it cost me $30 in shipping or whatever, 30 to 50 bucks to get the coin graded. Why would I do that? Well, on the surface, you're like, well, why would you do that? You're going to take a net loss, right? But there might be another factor or few factors involved. For example, it's not a coin, but I sent in a comic book, a Silver Surfer #1 that was in not the greatest condition, but it had a lot of sentimental value, and I wanted to have it encapsulated and graded. I think it came back a 1 or a 2 from CGC, so not very high, but the comic was my dad's, and it's something that was important, and so regardless of what it's worth, it didn't matter on a cash value. It mattered on a sentimental value, so the money I spent to grade it was well spent, right? Same as like a coin. You might just be a collector. You might go, oh, I just really like Morgan dollars, or I really like Lincoln cents, and I want this graded. I don't care that it's worth $6 or just the silver content or whatever. I want the coin graded so it keeps the condition, it puts a market value to it, and it's going to make sure this thing is real, and I can throw it in my collection and have that safety net, knowing that I have no counterfeits in my finalized graded collection. So I think those are really good factors. And then also another really big factor that I think a lot of you collectors out there of many things can say, sometimes it's good to get stuff graded when you think it's going to go up in value. You can get in early, you have it graded, you might even be one of the fewer ones that have been graded at the time, because many of you that send stuff to grade know that the more that these companies get, where people get flooded with that trading card, that comic, whatever's like in right now, the grading just starts to slack and slack and slack, or they get stricter and stricter and stricter. And usually those people that send them in early have kind of higher grades, got a little more leniency. And not to say that they're not graded appropriately, just maybe the graders were more excited because at the time there's less examples. So I think when you are under the assumption that your item, your coin in this case, might go way up in value, hey, who cares if it costs $20 more than the coin's value right now to get it graded? If the coin goes up to a couple $100 over the next few years, it was well worth it. You'd be kicking yourself later if you had to send it in, there's more strictness to the grading process with it, or it even costs way more. In a lot of collectibles, it goes off potential value of the collectible. And so now you're kicking yourself. You're spending a couple $100 to get it graded as opposed to $20, $30. And so it could be a market thing. There's a bunch of different factors. You can let me know in the comments if you've sent that cheapy collectible in that everyone's like, why did you do that? To get it graded and spent way more than value on it, and why you did it. And of course, we can talk about other stuff. So, in conclusion, there's a lot of factors that go into grading and conditioning your coins. There's lots of attribution services out there that are not these grading companies. I'll link you to some of those. There's some really good ones with some experts that have been in this field for decades, long time. They're great folks, super nice. Many of them I've had the pleasure of meeting loosely or closely, as well as ones I've never met and have just admired their hard work. They are seemingly restless in the way that they kind of pursue this hobby and give us die variety information and prices and ways of getting it attributed and graded. All that stuff's so wonderful. So I want to make sure I share the love with them by linking their websites. So if you need their services, feel free and please go and support them. But we've talked about all these different things grading, kind of what goes into it, the Sheldon Grading Scale, what wear and tear and condition factors go into grading. Hopefully I didn't bore the heck out of you. If at all, you now kind of know what it costs to get your stuff graded and kind of reasons why you should get it graded, even if the cost of grading at the time outweighs value. So maybe you took something away from the video. Let me know what your thoughts are on getting your coins graded, the general coin grading scale, your pros and cons of it, or your experiences, both negative and positive with grading. And if you're into other collectibles, what other stuff do you like to get graded, whether it's, comics, cassettes, vinyls, whatever. Love hearing about that stuff. So let's talk about it in the comments. Thank you so much for coming to another video. Hit subscribe if you're new and into currency and collectibles. You can see this weird mug as I talk all about collectibles. I love the stuff, and I love all the love that I'm getting from you guys. So I'll see you in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace out, y'all.